Hey everyone, welcome to the Middle School Visual Arts PLC group. My name is Alicia Montgomery and I'm the moderator for this group. I'm so glad that you joined us. It was created with you in mind. Our goal is to collaborate and support each other as we navigate the craziness of teaching middle school visual arts. Whether you're the only one in your system or one of many, we know you will find things here to help you. In order to make this as beneficial as possible for everyone, be sure to set up your notifications and check back often to see posts, discussions, and support that will be showcased. Please engage in our discussions and offer up any support or advice that you may have. Also, share this platform with your friends and colleagues. So this series is going to be about art advocacy. And this part of the series is going to be dealing with cross-curricular connections. One of the best ways to find some cross-curricular connections is to find you some collaborators. Collaborators could be other teachers, so they could be academic teachers, other connections teachers, other art teachers. Find some community leaders that are willing to help you. They're willing to work with you through these different parts, through these different things. They're going to allow you to display artwork, or they're going to donate supplies, whatever it is. Work with your local art center. Our art center allows us, because it is at the end of our campus, it's right next door to our school, we walk down and sometimes we'll do activities or view things that are in the gallery. And then other local businesses are really good places to find collaborators. When you're working with teachers, language arts teachers are great to help with visual narratives. Social studies teachers are great to help with cultural differences. I try to pick out projects that go with cultures that they will study that year in school. When we talk about rhythm and mood in our art, I often will bring in some advice from our music, choir, or band teachers. With math, you can work in geometry, you can work in shapes and forms, tessellations, all of those kinds of things. So the next part is, how do we discover those connections? How does what you are already teaching connect with other subjects or content? We're trying to take our standards and see where it overlaps or interacts with other things, other subjects. So one of the first ways to do that is to identify your standards. So we want to identify our visual arts standards first. This was an example of 6th grade visual arts standards. So this would just be the introduction to it, and then there's different categories. Right? And then underneath those categories, you have a description, then you have the standard itself, and then there's substandards underneath those. So you want to identify those with your projects first. That's the first thing that you want to do once you get your project designed, or when you're picking out your project to design. Then you can look at standards from other subjects, or an easier way to do that is to talk to teachers that teach those subjects and say, hey, this is what we're doing. How does this fit in with your standards? And that keeps you from having to read through standards for science and social studies and English and everything else. Keep your plans art-centered. They should always be art-centered. We teach art. We are not teaching all of these other subjects, but we are influencing those and letting them enhance our program. So your art lessons should always showcase art content front and center. So above all, remember that. So any standards that you're using from another content area are just supporting standards. Share your experiences. So once you've collaborated with these different people, share what you've done. And it can be through art displays. This is a cabinet that is in our central office that we use to display our artwork. We exhibit art at a gallery that's downtown that has a little section, small section for our students. We will often display at local businesses, restaurants, where students can put their work, They can list it for sale if they want to, or they can list it as NSF, so it's not for, or NFS, so it's not for sale. You could send out a newsletter or some type of electronic communication to parents. We use the Remind 101 app in our school system, so a lot of times I'll take a snapshot of something that we've done or that we've created, and I'll send that out just as a quick blast of, hey, this is what your students are doing, or come to this gallery or this restaurant and see your kids' artwork. You could do a presentation to the school board. Make sure that you have some students maybe that have won awards or won some art contests. You can have them go and show their artwork at the next board meeting. You can present at a professional education conference. So our state Art Education Association has a conference every year, and you could go and present some of the things that you've done there, some of the ways that you've collaborated. You could also present at the National Art Education Association as well. School websites are great ways to do that. I actually happen to be the webmaster for our school, so I will often post things that my students have done. Of course, you have to make sure, check permission rules for your school system with that. Same thing for social media. Right? Our school uses Facebook very heavily. And so a lot of times I'll send projects that we've done to our Facebook person to post for our school system. Newspaper coverage, if you're doing a really special project, is an awesome way to handle that also as well. So here are some of the projects that I do that collaborate with other subjects. We do a Zentangle project where we start off with a 2D Zentangle pattern, and then we have a cube template that then we fold up to look like this. So we talk about how we are using geometric shapes and organic shapes. We're using pattern. We're transforming all of this into a geometric form. And then we also talk about, with our patterns, we talk about the different types of rhythm. And we talk about how a simple rhythm in art and a simple beat in music would be very similar. Or an alternating beat and alternating visual rhythm would be very similar. So we incorporate those things into our projects. Another project we do with this is our color wheel. We do a color wheel mandala that looks similar to this. We tie in color theory, which is one of our huge standards, but it is also a standard for family and consumer sciences. When they talk about designing place settings and clothing design and interior design, they discuss color theory as well. And our home ec teacher, or our family and consumer sciences teacher, teaches color theory to her students as well. We talk about a little bit of science, so we talk about color mixing and how the light waves move and what causes our eyes to see the colors that we see. We talk a little bit about rods and cones in the eye. We bring in social studies. We talk about mandalas, and we talk about the different religions that use mandalas, the cultures that those come from, and why those are significant and important. Another one is logo design. The students are given, sometimes they get to choose a company that they would like to create or create a design for, or a logo for. And we tie this in with businesses and how it would print. We talk about spot color, different things like that. We also talk about work ethics, talking about turning things in on time, making sure you get proofs, how you're going to get paid. So we kind of incorporate all of that into this logo design project. So with our with our ceramics project, we talk a little bit about chemical reactions. We talk about the stages of dryness. We talk about the type of rock or the type of clay that we're using. I kind of bring in other types of clay as well, so that we can kind of talk about the types of soil and where this would come from. Also with ceramics, when we talk about glazing, We talk about chemical changes that happen, the chemical makeup of the glazes, and why they end up being different colors. We talk about color mixing again, similar to what we did with our color wheel. We do Gaotaku fish prints. We talk about the parts of the fish. We write a poem to go with their image. Sometimes we'll do a short story if they'd rather do that. And so we bring in some language arts. We also bring in language arts with some of the reading and research that we do. We use different magazines and books to get ideas for projects or to learn things about artists or specific art styles. So we bring in reading and comprehension with that. And also with our rubrics. They have to read the rubrics and then they have to respond to in writing to some essential questions. Explain things like what linear perspective means, or explain why they chose the color scheme that they did. Those kinds of things. Collaborate with our language arts classes as well. Well, thank you for joining us. Please take a few minutes to participate in our discussion question. I can't wait to hear all of your wonderful ideas and share some of my own. So be sure to subscribe. Also, don't miss any updates, posts, discussions, or any of the fun.